Hello and welcome to Bites Bread and Barbecue. Today we're going to be talking about the easiest artisan bread I've ever made in my life. It's 4 hours start to finish, and it can be done in an early morning and ready for lunch. All you need is an oven-safe Dutch oven cast iron crock, and you're all set to go. So we're going to show you how you can do this and lead you through it step by step, and show you how cool the bread looks at the end. If you find any of this helpful, make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. And if you're really gung-ho, you can ask for notifications whenever there's a new video from Bites Bread and Barbecue. So let's get started. This is easy 4-hour artisan bread with no kneading. What you're going to have is a round loaf that is cracked on the top with that thick artisan crust. The very first step is that you're going to take 3 cups of flour, and it can be any kind of flour. It doesn't have to be any particular bread flour. This is all-purpose flour I'm using, and 1 teaspoon of salt. You're going to mix that together and just stir that and incorporate the salt with all of the flour. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to take 1/4 teaspoon of dry yeast. Now the trick to this is that you're going to be putting it in pretty hot water. I use as hot as I can get out of my spigot. Now you have to be careful. If it gets too hot, it'll kill the yeast. But the reason we can do this in a short time is because of the hot water. So I like to let the yeast activate. I put 1/4 teaspoon in 1½ cups of hot water, and I stir it in, and I allow it to sit for 10 minutes to activate the yeast. After the yeast has been activated, you're going to pour that water mixture into the flour and salt mixture, and then using a large spoon or a fork, you're going to mix the ingredients together. And notice your hands are staying pretty clean through this whole thing, but you're going to continue to stir with your large fork until this is completely incorporated. It'll take you a little bit, and you'll notice too that this is making a very moist dough. In the past, I've done videos on poolish and biga. This is going to give you a very similar consistency, but we're not waiting for the overnight rise. Now, the advantage is that we can do this in a very short period of time. The disadvantages are with an overnight rise, you do get a release of more minerals into the bread, and the bread is more digestible. It also has a longer shelf life if you rise overnight. This bread does not make large loaves, so shelf life usually isn't a problem because it's usually quickly consumed. And as you can see, this is getting to be a rather sticky, non-conforming dough as we mix it together. And other than pushing the dough off the fork, my hands have remained completely clean. Once you have it completely incorporated, you're going to cover it either with some type of saran wrap, or I happen to have these handy dandy lids. You're going to set this aside, and it's going to rise for 3 hours at room temperature. All right, we'll see you at the end of 3 hours. Now the other thing that you're going to do, when you take the lid off of this, you're going to notice that the dough is very, very wet. It has doubled in size, but it's very, very wet and kind of loose. So you're actually going to use a pretty heavily floured surface. This is pretty atypical when you're making bread. A lot of times you just want a slight dusting. This is one time that you're going to want a fair amount of flour on your surface when you take the dough out of the bowl. So we remove the dough onto this heavily floured surface. And once again, you're going to apply a fair amount of flour to the top side of this dough once you have removed it from the bowl as well. taking a dough scraper, you're going to start to fold it in quadrants. Now, someone may argue that this technically is a type of kneading. I guess it is, but basically you're just folding, you're not really getting your hands in there, and you're not working the dough to excess. You're going to take this and you're going to fold or round that into a nice ball. Notice it's not sticking to my hands. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to take that ball that you made and some parchment paper. You're going to place this, I have a handy dandy proofing bowl, but you can use any kind of bowl that you want. I'm going to put this dough ball on top of some parchment in my proofing bowl, and you're going to let it rise a second time, only for 30 minutes this time. So you're just going to take that dough ball, plop it right in there, and you're going to cover it with a towel. Now, while you're doing that, you should be preheating your oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and you need to put your oven-safe metal Dutch oven in that 450 degree Fahrenheit oven, because you want that to get to the same temperature. Next, what you're going to do is, after 30 minutes, you're going to uncover your dough, and you're going to make one nice little cut with a sharp knife or a razor blade. I happen to have a razor blade here. And you're going to take your heated Dutch oven out of your regular oven, and you're going to place parchment, dough, and everything into the Dutch oven, all at one fell swoop. And you're going to place the lid back on. The reason you want the lid on is that this is going to generate steam that gives you that artisan crust. So we put the lid back on, and we place the Dutch oven back into the oven for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, what you're going to do is you're going to remove the Dutch oven from your regular oven, and you're going to remove the dough from the parchment paper. It should not stick, and this will give you a majority cooked loaf. However, it still doesn't have that nice crisp crust. So after 30 minutes, you take it out, you remove the bread from the parchment paper, and you place it back into the Dutch oven. But this time when you put it in the oven, you're going to leave the lid off so that you get that hearty crust. And then you're going to cook it for 15 more minutes at 450 degrees Fahrenheit. After 15 minutes, this is what you have. And it has that nice hearty crust. And notice how it's not sticking to any of the sides of the Dutch oven. And you should be able to lift it free without any type of sticking at all. You then take the loaf and you set it aside to cool on a cooling rack. Do not cut it when it's hot. And the final product, when I cut it on the cooling rack, is going to look like this. So I hope you enjoyed this quick tutorial on how to make a very rapid artisan bread, and I hope you enjoy it. Have a good day.